And then that evening, we just happened to be sitting by each other. He
just happened to be. And her dad is running the conference. Just happened. Okay.
Was a coincidence. And so we're sitting through service, and I could tell he was feeling your girl. And so I want. So I'm trying to focus on the word of the Lord, because I came to get mine, and all while I'm focusing on the word of the Lord like this, it's like right in my peripherals. I noticed that, he kept looking at me and coming up with ways to speak to me during service, like, oh, that was good. And I was like, it was all right.
Well, Lordy have mercy, honey child. I wonder if Pastor Toure's ex-wife and children, who were also displaced members of this church, think all of this is so funny. But anyway, y'all, hi there. I'm Professor Blackmore, and welcome back to my channel and to my series entitled Woman Evolve, the ProfessorBlackmore.com pre-show. And I'm coming back to you with the second part 3B of my episode entitled, Did Pastor Toure Roberts divorce his wife to marry Sarah Jakes? And so, if you want to see what's in these divorce records or pertinent to the divorce petition that Pastor Toure filed to rid himself of his prior wife, you better stick around. And now, if you want to get caught up on all of the tea that I dropped in part 3A, please watch my prior part 3A video of this series. Now, before I jump back in, I want to say that these divorce records associated with Pastor Toure's divorce from his ex-wife are something else, honey child. And I want to tell you right now that this episode will extend into part 3C because Pastor Toure's ex-wife, Lori Roberts, revealed some very interesting details. And my spirit will not rest until I release all of the tea she dropped, honey child. And while I was at the courthouse, just the same as when I was practicing family law in more of a hardcore fashion quite some time ago, well, on this particular occasion, I ran into numerous women at the courthouse with the same desperation in their eyes. You know that look of a person who's trapped in a marriage with a person and they desperately want to get out because it's not the reality show love affair that everybody thinks it is. And you could just tell that they didn't have the money to hire an attorney and they were just clueless. And so I want to say right here that if you, your family members, or your friends find yourselves in this situation, I placed a link in the description section below where you can go on my website to seek self-help resources with my File for Divorce Online division, wherein you can file for divorce online in 4 easy steps with ProfessorBlackmore.com. And there's also a place where you can obtain an online email or virtual consultation. So please visit ProfessorBlackmore.com/file for divorce online. And I'll also place a link in the description section below. And so let's jump back in. And before I go any further, I want to note that during an Essence interview, Pastor Toure and Sister Sarah were asked the following question: how do you handle all of the personal opinions of your followers on social media? And Sister Sarah replied, quote, sometimes it's a part of it, so we're fine and we can deal with it. And other times we're like, oh, we're gonna create a fake account and say something to them. I think at the end of the day, we're human. End quote. And so let me say right here and now, Sister Sarah, don't come for me in this channel, baby girl. Oh, but anyway, y'all, let me stay focused. And as you know, as reported by Sister Sarah in all news publications that have interviewed her, and even as late as August 17, 2022, in the Los Angeles Times, it is reported that, quote, in 2014, Roberts was introduced to her now husband, Toure Roberts, through a friend shortly after the release of Lost and Found, end quote. And now if you go to the internet, it will reveal that Lost and Found was released in April of 2014. And if you go back and watch part 3A of this series, you'll see that when referring to the date when they started dating, they also used the wording, quote, that they met in the spring of 2014 when Sarah was promoting her book, Lost and Found, and taping an episode of the Dr. Phil Show, which aired April 1st, end quote. And you will agree that we also learned in part 3A of this episode that while that particular Dr. Phil episode aired possibly on April 1st, it clearly had to be taped prior to April of 2014. And so it clearly follows that Sister Sarah would have been in Los Angeles because she was taping the show, not because the show aired, because she would not have to be there for the airing of the show, only for the taping of the show. And so talking about the date that the show aired is what I call strategery. And so the date it actually aired had nothing to do with the moment in time when they went out on a date together. And so again, you can clearly see why they want us to believe that they started dating in the so-called spring of 2014 or sometime in April of 2014 timeframe, because just like the Pastor Keion, Sister Shaunie scenario, this is a better story for a pastor of a church placing the first time that they dated after Pastor Toure filed the petition to divorce his prior wife so he could date and marry Sarah Jakes. And so we pick back up with our timeline, having established that there was what they're calling an initial meeting that took place somewhere around the first part of February 2014 timeframe. And I actually think they were already dating before this. And this story about a business partner introducing them for this so-called strictly platonic initial meeting is, in my opinion, a made-up story, allegedly. But I'll let y'all decide for yourself what you think by the end of this episode. And so let's check this out in Sister Sarah's own words.
I was just a humble servant coming to do the Lord's work out on tour. It was in February, I believe. A business partner told me that there was a church in Los Angeles that he thought I should come and speak to when I was on tour. And so I was very focused. I was kind of in my Miss Independent Woman. I was preparing for this book launch. I didn't need no man. And so I came into the meeting and, once again, very focused. He said that the moment he saw me, that his breath was just taken away. Once again, doing the Lord's work. I didn't have time for any of those things. And so we had this incredible meeting, and so he's telling me about this community of believers in Los Angeles. And so we left, and, I tweeted the man of God, and I told him he had a brilliant mind. He thought that I was flirting with him.
Who tells a man he has a brilliant mind? That's not flirting. She flirted with me on Twitter.
Doing the Lord's work.
Doing the Lord's work.
So we're at this conference together in Orlando, and I just happened to see him while we... All right. And, we just waved or whatever, and then I saw him again. He came and heard my session at the conference, and then that evening we just happened to be sitting by each other. He
just happened to be. And her dad is running the conference. Just happened. Okay.
Was a coincidence. And so we're sitting through service, and I could tell he was feeling your girl, and so I once... So I'm trying to focus on the word of the Lord, because I came to get mine. And all while I'm focusing on the word of the Lord like this, it's like right in my peripherals. I noticed that, he kept looking at me and coming up with ways to speak to me during service, like, oh, that was good. And I was like, it was all right. And then, so after service, I had a moment in prayer. We held hands during prayer. And that's when the Spirit of the Lord really began to speak to me. And so I decided, because I was being, Miss Independent Woman, and I was like, I'm going to see maybe if, he would like to take me to dinner. And so right before service was over, you know how sometimes you have to have a pep talk in your head, like, this is what I'm going to say, this, I'm going to say it, I'm going to say it real fast. And so I had this pep talk with myself. So service is over, and I walk up to him, I said, I'm coming to LA, and you're taking me to dinner. And he said, yes, ma'am. And now we're engaged.
So now, we have the so-called initial meeting date taking place around the first part of February 2014. But we all know they were already dating, allegedly. Because on February 7th, 2014, Pastor Toure files for divorce from his ex-wife, Lori Roberts. I mean, that's the part that Sister Sarah leaves out of the story in her strategery. And then Sister Sarah talks about another date taking place during her father's leadership conference in Orlando that took place from March 6th through March 8th of 2014. And so they can call it what they want, but these people are clearly dating. And this man has filed for divorce from his wife by this time. And so let's get a little bit more from Sister Sarah.
No, seriously though, on our very first date, I was here filming Dr. Phil, and so we had to move our date, and then we're sitting at the table, and then he looks at me and he goes, how can I serve you?
I know how to talk up like that.
And that's when I knew I was in a bit of a pickle. See, I wasn't really prepared. I don't know how many of you all have been in, toxic relationships. And so you enter into the next relationship and you never know how much residue is left from that previous relationship. And so we're sitting at this table and he's looking at me and he's asking me, how can I serve you? And I never expected to come colliding headfirst into someone who understood what love meant.
And so, as you can see, she wants to describe this as their very first date, but the man has already divorced his wife over 2 dates ago. And again, I think they had been on even more dates than those, allegedly. But let me stay focused, y'all. And so, they talk about this additional date that took place around the end of March 2014 timeframe, because the Dr. Phil Show episode would have been taped sometime around the end of March 2014. And I think we can clearly agree that this is not a first date. I mean, you spend all of that time together in Orlando from March 6th to March 8th, and we're supposed to believe nothing is going on, and this man has divorced his wife after supposedly meeting you for the first time in February. Okay. Bye, Pastor Toure, and bye, Sister Sarah. Goodbye, y'all. Now, even before I get to the divorce decree, which was very interesting in its own right, I have to drop this piece of information coming from Pastor Toure's ex-wife, which paints the picture for me, honey child. I mean, when I arrived at the courthouse, this document right here screamed out to my spirit. Because you can clearly see that Pastor Toure finds himself in the heat of passion, as you will see, in July of 2014 when the divorce is not yet finalized and it seemed it's not moving at the pace that he desired. And so it appears that he attempts to expedite his ex-wife into quickly finalizing the divorce by ceasing the payment of family support of the household bills. And as a result, it became necessary for Pastor Toure's ex-wife to request that the court order Pastor Toure to resume making family support payments. And so she files a motion with the court requesting a hearing. And she supports this motion with a declaration in her own words that she also filed in the courthouse record, honey child. And so now it's time for story time, because I'm going to read directly from Pastor Toure's ex-wife declaration in which she begs the court to order him to resume financial support for the benefit of her and her children. And so Sister Lori Roberts states in her own words, quote, Pastor Toure and I were married on December 30th, 1995, and have been married for 17 years and 3 months. We have 3 children from our marriage: Lauren Roberts, Taya Roberts, and Isaiah Roberts. Laura Roberts has now reached the age of majority and has graduated from high school. And as such, at this time, there are 2 minor children of the marriage. Now, during the marriage, Pastor Toure and I started a ministry known as Saints United Ministries, doing business as One Church International and Artist Resource Center. During the marriage, Pastor Toure and I worked hard to build the ministry, and we put a lot of effort and money into the ministry to make it what it is today. Given the pending divorce, it was no longer feasible for me to continue working side by side with Pastor Toure. Nevertheless, I remained in the home that Pastor Toure and I have been leasing in Encino, where we have lived as a family. Okay, so they didn't own a home? They were living in a home they leased? Lordy have mercy. Now, how is it that these so-called successful pastors, Pastor Keion and Pastor Toure, don't own no damn real estate? Oh, but anyway, y'all, because I need to stay focused. Now, Sister Lori Roberts states further that on Thursday, September the 11th, 2014, I received word from Pastor Toure's cousin that he notified the landlord of the Encino property that I needed to be out of the house by October the 12th. Pastor Toure has not notified me of this unilateral decision that he made. Okay, so let me get this straight, Pastor Toure. You give your wife of over 17 years 30 days to get out of the house that you've lived in together with your children, and you can't even tell her this your own damn self? Lordy have mercy, y'all. And so, Sister Lori Roberts states further, while Pastor Toure had paid support for the children and I, including the lease payment for the Encino residence, which is approximately $8,000 per month, and utilities of approximately $1,500 per month, he had made it clear to me that he will not provide any further support without a court order. On or about July 22nd, 2014, Pastor Toure told me that he would not provide me with any further support until there was an agreement. And so as you can see here, at some point in time, it seems that Sister Lori is trying to communicate with your boy. She's like, okay, what's the rush? What has changed? Why are you in such a rush to get this divorce? And so as you can see here in the text message attached to the declaration as Exhibit C, in which he states, quote, nothing has changed other than my attorney advising me not to give money until we have an agreement, end quote. But we all know what had changed. He needed to get this divorce wrapped up fast as he could so he could marry his 20-year younger girlfriend. Oh, but let me stay focused. And so Sister Lori Roberts states further, although Pastor Toure has provided me with funds since then, it is sporadic and inconsistent, and I never know from one week to the next whether or not he will provide anything. Over the course of the last several months, Pastor Toure has indicated that he wanted to have settlement discussions with counsel and the two of us. When my counsel requested the required supporting documentation, I received the following text message from Pastor Toure. And now here is the text message that Pastor Toure sent that is attached as Exhibit D, in which he states, quote, "By law, I don't have to provide anything more than what I have provided without a court order. I am presently fully compliant as is." And now just let me tell y'all right now, that is a flat out lie, allegedly. Because as you can see on this docket sheet, the court keeps up with what it calls milestones that the petitioner who filed the divorce must comply with before the court will sign the divorce decree. And as you can see on this docket sheet, till this very date even, Pastor Toure never filed his financial disclosures, which are absolutely required. And he didn't file them because he didn't want them to be able to be seen by people like me. But his attorney did provide them to his ex-wife attorney. And why? Because they are required. And his ex-wife's attorney attached them to this declaration that I'm reading from. And now I won't be able to get to them in this part of the episode, but I will discuss them in part 3C. But I just want to let you know that he was not fully compliant. So that was a straight up lie, allegedly. Now, he states further in his little text message, however, I am going to provide supporting documents as a courtesy to you. You will not be receiving any information from the church. So if you're planning on going after the church, which is a completely separate nonprofit of which I am an employee of, just know that this is going to go to trial and become a long, drawn-out process. If this is the route you want to take, then we don't have to do the four-way. I'm just going to file paperwork with the court to finish this thing off. If this is your intention, let me know. And this is the route I will take. I wish you the best. Let me know, because this will also determine whether I will give you money or just provide support for the children until we have an agreement. End quote. Wow. And so, Sister Lori states further in her declaration that even when I inquired about payment for his mother's vehicle, which is in my name, what? He responded with the following text message, quote, "Good morning. I'm currently gathering all of the documents your attorney has requested. Until we have settled, I will only provide support for my children's needs. Please don't ask me about any other bill support other than that. Hopefully, this will all be over soon enough." End quote. Okay, so let me get this straight. He doesn't even have enough good credit, allegedly, to put his mama's car in his own name, but he's gonna turn around and pull this mess. Okay, y'all, that's right. Let me stay focused. And so, in conclusion, Sister Lori states, because Pastor Toure knows that I'm financially dependent on him, he is attempting to coerce me into settlement without having to provide the very basic requirement of complete transparency and disclosure as required. End quote. That's right, complete transparency and disclosures for the divorce petition that you filed, Pastor Toure. Now, this declaration was filed by Sister Lori Roberts on September 19, 2014. And thereafter, even in spite of all of this explosive activity, an article posted by Praise Cleveland, Praise 94.5, revealed that Pastor Toure proposed to Sister Sarah on September the 22nd of 2014. The article also notes a trip the two previously took together to Maui, which is where Pastor Toure revealed that he purchased the engagement ring. Okay, so let me get this straight. You don't want to keep up with your family financial obligations, but you can vacation with your girlfriend in Maui buying engagement rings while you're still married? Lordy, have mercy, child. But as y'all know on here, I just ask a report and I let the saints decide. So, what do you think about this hot tea dropped by Sister Lori herself? Do you think it was low down and dirty of a so-called pastor of a church to try to financially strong-arm his wife this way just so he could marry his young tenderoni wife? Please let me know by leaving your comments in the comment section below. And I hope you'll also give me a big thumbs up. And I hope you'll also consider donating to this video and this entire video episode ministry by clicking the Super Heart Thanks button below. And while you're there, I want to also ask you please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell so you'll be notified whenever I come back with more hot tea on this church house hot mess drama. And please also follow me on TikTok and Instagram.